Thank you, Judge Oxley. Again, my name is Kevin Seville. I've worked for Frontier Communications for 17 years. I live out in Mound, Minnesota, just west of the Twin Cities. I've been a customer of Frontier for years, and we appreciate all of you coming out here this evening. For those of you that don't know, Frontier has had a long history of being a telephone service provider in the Wyoming area and throughout the state. Our service territory is actually quite broad. We serve communities as far north as Ely and International Falls, down around the Twin Cities suburbs, and clear to the south to Worthington. We have about 100,000 customers across the state, and we provide not only telephone service, but a host of other services, including internet service to both business and residential households. As you can imagine, in a geographic service territory that is that wide and diverse, when you think about northern Minnesota as compared to southern Minnesota, we inevitably have service interruptions and outages that occur on a daily basis. We have 100,000 customers, and it's not uncommon for us to have service outages that are caused by weather, caused by a breakdown of equipment, could be caused by a farmer plowing in a field and hitting a cable, a truck hitting one of our telephone poles, knocking out facilities, any variety of circumstances. And if there is a service interruption or an outage for our customers, that we want to respond to that as quickly as we possibly can. In all circumstances, we realize that if there's a storm or some common event that knocks out literally dozens, if not hundreds of customers, it may take us more time than what we'd like to be able to respond to that. We recognize that. We recognize that many of you are here this evening because you've had some type of service issue or problem with Frontier. And as Judge Oxley alluded to, we do have a couple of customer service reps here tonight that are in the back at the table right when you walked in the entryway. Both Cindy and Robin are there, and you're certainly encouraged to testify tonight in this proceeding. But if separate from that, you want some follow-up from Frontier on a particular service issue you're having now or you've had in the past, please stop by and talk to both either Cindy or Robin and give them your information. We'll just need your name, your Frontier telephone number or account number, and a description of what that service issue is. And then we'll commit to you that our service reps will follow up, contact you, and work with you to try to see if we can resolve your issue. We also have some of our other representatives here that I'm not going to point them all out at this point, but we have Jack Phillips in our regulatory group, Scott Bowler, and then Tom Mern, who's the local general manager, as well as Javier Mendoza, who's here. And any of those folks, if you want to talk to them when you go on the break, as the judge alluded to, they'd be happy to try to answer your questions and help you as best we can. But again, I would encourage you, if you have a service issue, please provide your information to our folks, and we will follow up with you and see if we can get it addressed. So again, thank you for coming, and I appreciate the opportunity to address you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Ian Dobson, who is with the Office of the Attorney General.
Is this? Thanks, excuse this one to those sitting. Good evening. Like I just said, my name is Ian Dobson, and I'm a lawyer with the Office of Minnesota Attorney General Lori Swanson. And just so you know, I was actually sitting right there, and the judge asked me to move up so there to keep a chair open. So if somebody sitting in the back wants to take that, there's a chair up front if you haven't seen it. Anyways, I'm not up here because I'm somehow making a decision or anything. I just got the nice chair. But access to affordable and reliable telecommunications services like phone and internet is important for Minnesotans across the state, with more business and social interactions happening across those connections. Minnesota law, the reason I'm here is that Minnesota law gives the Attorney General's Office the responsibility to represent and further the interests of residential and small business utility customers in front of the Public Utilities Commission. And one of those duties that our office has is to advocate for the residential small business customers inquiry of Frontier service quality. So our office is interested in hearing about the experiences that you may have had with Frontier service quality, because this information is going to help my office determine what best course of action we can take in the commission's inquiry. And so because of that, I really encourage you to express your thoughts, any thoughts you have tonight or in writing to the judge. In addition, when we get out into the public, we do like to remind people that we obviously do a whole host of other things, not simply related to telephone service or public utilities. If you have other issues with businesses or things that you think we should be aware of, please let us know, because that's our job. In that context, I brought there in the back, I brought some consumer complaint forms. I don't know that I have, I didn't bring quite enough, but I do have some, and certainly can give you the information that you would need to contact our office if there's something else you want to contact us about. So thank you again for your interest and your participation in tonight's hearing.
Next up, ma'am, you have a question?
I do. Do you automatically get the written comments from the PUC, or should you send them to the Attorney General's office separately?
We would, I assume they're all going to be made public, yeah, on the docket system, yeah, we'll have them.
Okay.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Gregory Doyle, who's with the Department of Commerce. Thank you, Your Honor. I'm Greg Doyle with the Department of Commerce, and the Department of Commerce is the investigatory agency on matters that come before the Public Utilities Commission. So where the judge will take your testimony, we'll prepare a report on that testimony. We're also doing an investigation that will also ask our own questions that look at the laws and rules that apply to Frontier. In our earlier two hearings, one thing that became apparent to me is that there wasn't a strong realization that there are rules that apply to telephone companies that are certified by the Public Utilities Commission to operate in Minnesota. So we'll be looking at what a company's practices are, where they fall out of compliance, where changes need to be made, and what constitutes good public policy as a company certified by the commission. Judge, there's somebody that wishes to ask a question. I don't know if you wish me to answer it or to wait, or...
You know, I'm trying to run this as informally and as efficiently as possible, so please answer the question. But keep in mind, I do have a structure and a timeline I need to keep to.
Okay, I'll try to be very fast. Being with the Commerce Department and dealing with...
I'm sorry.
I'll try to be very fast. But being
It's
with
not a
Commerce...
matter of being fast, it's the court reporter.
So she can hear me.
Yeah.
Being with the Commerce Department and dealing with the utilities of the state, I noticed that the attorney spoke of Frontier dealing with very large areas of the state and almost being overwhelmed by the amount of work that they have to do to service all their, within your industry or what you do you hear the same complaint from all the other utility companies, the electric, the gas, that we have in the state that service the same areas, the same rural areas?
So, sir, I can't answer your question precisely because I only work in telecommunications, and I've been doing that for 31 years. And so what those complaints are for people in Wyoming, concerning gas and electric, I just don't know the answers. So I'm strictly telecommunications. And I think with that, Judge, I'm done.
Lastly, I'd like to introduce Diane Wells. Ms. Wells is with the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development.
Thank you, Judge.
Third time is a charm.
As the judge said, my name is Diane Wells, and I represent the state's Office of Broadband Development, which is housed at the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. Our office is not a party to this proceeding. However, in reviewing the written comments that have been submitted, many of those comments raise concerns with Frontier's broadband service, because the purpose of our office is to encourage, foster, develop, and improve broadband within the state. We believed it was important to be here in the event any comments tonight also touch on broadband. We are not a regulatory office, but we do serve as the central planning body for broadband in Minnesota and have resources such as maps that show where broadband providers offer service using various technologies in the state. Our organization also has administered a broadband grant program to provide capital contributions to broadband service providers to assist them in providing more high-speed broadband to projects in greater Minnesota, and customers receiving service from one of our broadband grant-funded areas do receive broadband service of at least 25 megabits per second down and 3 megabits up. And I did have a flyer, I don't know if there's any left on the table in the back, with our website address for those of you that have internet, and also our telephone number if you wanted to call for more information. Thank you.
I've not heard applause at any of these. Just before I start asking who needs to speak, because they have to leave, their house is on fire, there's a chance if they leave now, they could save the baby. I'll let those people. So, when you talk, I'd like you to slowly state and then spell your name. Many people are here for their telephone service. Many are probably here for their internet service. Many of you may be here for both. Those are two distinct services. It's very important for the commission to know when you are telling your concerns, whether you're talking about your telephone service or you're talking about your internet access service. So if I'm, and I'll do my best to follow you, but if I'm not clear on which service you're talking about, I may interrupt you and ask you to be clear. Lastly, some people have brought along statements they've written out. I'm happy to receive those into the record. They get filed electronically as part of the docket, and they're considered by the commission. You can read your statement into the record if you would like, as well as submit it. The choice is up to you. Finally, I've done two other hearings like this, and I've heard many people with similar problems. So you can feel free, if you like, to piggyback on someone else and going, when it's your turn to speak, yes, I had the same problems as Ms. Anderson spoke about. But you know, I have to kind of follow who you're talking about. So if you're referencing someone else, let me try to get their name on the record. And I'm sorry, sir, you had a question.
Is there a difference to you whether we speak or just submit our report?
You know, there's no difference to me really, but after people have spoken in about 7:20, I'm going to interrupt public testimony and give the parties that I introduced to you just a chance to respond to you. So if you've spoken, they would have a chance to respond. If you haven't, they wouldn't. Okay? Okay, so Mr. McCarthy is going to pass the microphone around. Who needs to go? Who would like to go first because they're under time pressure? Because otherwise I'll just go through the sheets.
Who raised his hand
We've got
right there.
somebody.
So he did first.
I'm sorry.
My name is Vernon Crane, BERNONCRANE. What other information did you need?
Well, just for you to be specific about the service that you're commenting on, as you're commenting.
The service I have is internet. And the issues that I've had with Frontier span back for almost 2 years. Yeah, almost 2 years. My service when I first got Frontier was down 90% of the time. I would call customer service and I would get it up, and I would go to work and I would come home and it would be back down. In speaking of customer service, I would find out that they would say that the individuals on the truck were inept, and it was their fault that my internet was down. When the truck would finally get out to my home, again, I work in the cities. And it's very hard to coordinate me being at home when they could be there or not. But when I could finally get into a place where I was at home and they were there, they would inform me, whatever you do not talk to the 1-800 number. They are completely inept. So I was in a back and forth with this, and this went on for several months. Finally, I started to find out that there was an upgrade, they're saying, on my block at the end of North Center Lake. And apparently, we were the only ones getting this upgrade of infrastructure equipment because we were the only ones having this problem. Again, back and forth, that the trucks were inept, and then the 1-800 service was inept. So don't talk to corporate and don't talk to local. Quite frustrating because I work in information technology and I need, I do enjoy very much the capability of working from home from time to time, being every Friday. And I was using my phone as a hotspot, and I did this for 6 months because when I would get home on Fridays, or when I would get up on Fridays, my router would say that I had no internet. It would be working fine Thursday night when I went to bed. There would be no call. But when I got up on Friday morning, there would be no internet. Get on the phone first thing in the morning to get my internet up, and I would be on hold, or I would finally get a hold of somebody. They would walk me through the same mundane process of resetting my router, unplugging it, and saying, I knew more about information technology than these people on the phone, but that's okay. I would do what they asked me to do, and I still would not have any service. Then they would schedule a truck to come out to my house in a week, and I would try to explain to them that I was working that day. This is very difficult for somebody that makes money. I am one of these poor souls that don't get paid if I'm only working within 20% of my SOW. I don't get that. So I didn't know what to do. So this went on and on. So service finally started getting better. Service is better, but still not the greatest. Then there was the bill. I would complain about my bill because I had no service, or I had a span of 18 to 20 days where I had no service, or that every day my service would be down. And I would explain to Frontier that why would I pay for a service that is not working? And they would very politely explain to me, we can fix that with your credit. So if I'm not paying my bill, they'd be more than happy to report this to my credit report and make it real happy for me to motivate me to pay, and that I had signed a contract. So if I defaulted on my bill, that they would make me have to go back and pay. But again, this would be reported back to my credit report. Where am I at here? I'm not getting a service, yet I'm paying for a service. And they seem to not be motivated because they're inept. But wait a minute, the truck is inept. I'm still trying to figure that one out. So where does that leave the consumer? Me as the consumer, am I the employer to Frontier because I pay the wage? So am I the one that is investing in sanity by continuing to feed into the broken mechanism by continuing to pay? I don't know what to do. Like I said, my service has gotten better. It's not great, but when I saw this, I needed to be here, and that's my statement.
Thank you. Is that the hand of another person?
Yes.
Who needs to leave? Could you take the microphone to her, please?
Nancy Johnson, NANCYJOHNSON. And I pretty much have had the same problems that he's had, except they've gotten even cuter. I was told to call Contact, and they would take care of giving me credit on my bill, and when I did, they were gonna look into it. I never heard from them again. I was also told at one time when I called the 800 number that it was a problem because their demand over exceeded their equipment. Well, that's like not my fault, but I guess it was. I'm really upset with Frontier, and I don't have a choice, because that's the only company I can get where I live. And they just kind of have you, and they don't care.
Ma'am, could I ask if you're speaking about your telephone?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, I said I was piggybacking on what the man just said. So I'm talking about internet.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't speak slow. I finally just gave up, because I got tired of being told over and over again, like the fellow ahead of me said, it's the truck's fault, it's their fault, and the truck guy, one of the truck guys told me not to even bother calling, and he gave me a number to call, because they were better. I've gone into town in Lindstrom and talked to the office and given a runaround. They did lower my rate a little bit, because I complained about new customers getting a lower rate than I was paying, and then my service got even worse. So, I'm very frustrated, and I don't know what to do, but that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Is there another person who needs to speak very promptly? Sure.
Nobody else is raising their hand. Hi, my name is Greg Pedro.
Mr. Pedro, I don't know if, would you mind standing up? It's a lot easier for me when I'm making my notes.
I just want to see who it is. You might have. So,
How do you spell your last name?
Pedro. So I'm over in Scandia. We only have the one service provider, and I have internet. My son, he special needs, so he games a little bit at night. Always getting kicked off his machine because it's running too slow. I called Frontier. I've been having a lot of problems, especially in the last like 6 months. It's been really, really bad. And I was told that common practice to usually have to reboot that modem like 3 to 4 times a day. Unplug it, plug it in. This is a service tech that I talked to on the phone. I also said, well, maybe there's something actually wrong with the modem. Can we have a service tech come out and check the piece of equipment? He said, that's an $89 charge to you. And I said, well, wait a minute. I'm paying the bill, I'm buying your product, I'm using your equipment. Why do I have to pay for the service call? He said, that's the way it is unless we show an actual problem over the months. And I said, well, do you keep records of every time that we call? And he goes, no, you need to keep those records and then tell us about it when you call, and then we'll log it. I said, okay. I'm a repair technician for Coca-Cola. I have been for 17 years. We give out a lot of equipment to people because they're pumping our product. We appreciate them pumping our product. When they need a service repair, guess what? We go out and fix the equipment. Sometimes it needs to be replaced. We don't want to put in a $5,000 piece of equipment, but to keep that customer and to have them pump our product, we give them the equipment. I should not have to pay an $89 fee to have them come out to service their thing. I'm not calling them because just, hey, I want to see the service tech. I got a problem. You know, the only other thing I can say, you know, we live in a free world. You can boycott them. You can use the hotspot on your phone. You're going to have to pay a little more at your phone company, but use your hotspot and just get rid of Frontier. Done with it. It's the only thing you can do. Thank you.
So, we can take one more, and then I've got to start with the sign-in sheets, because I've got 38 people who've signed in already. So, if you've got to go, right now, I'll let you speak. Might go to the lady in the back of the.
Hello, do you need me to stand up?
If it would help me, it would be a
Okay.
courtesy to me.
My name is Teresa Lorenz, and I'm a customer of
And
Frontier.
could you state and spell your name?
TERESALORENZ. And it's regarding the same situation as these other people that have already spoke. It's about the internet access. I've been a customer of a couple years. I was also told I couldn't get any other service except Frontier, so I was a customer of CenturyLink before, Comcast, for my business and personal, and I never had a problem like this. So I'm angry. I'm super angry because I run a business and then I come home, I work 2 shifts a day, and when I come home, I have to keep working, and I couldn't get on the internet. Every night, I gotta unplug it all through the night. I really work from morning to morning. So every time I would, working on a document, I would save it, and then I would try to go on, it would shut off. I couldn't get access to my, the work I did. So, I kept calling, Frontier, and they did the same thing. I asked, are you gonna give me a credit? I'm not getting services that I'm paying for. I was dropped. They told me thousands. They could see that I was dropped thousands of times. And then every time they sent a technician out, the technician would say, we don't see any problem. Let's just move the jack. Let's redo some of the stuff. Let's give you some new modems. I had 5 or 6 different technicians within the first year that I had the service. I still had the service. Then I had to buy a device to try to remotely carry with me to try to be able to do my work on the go and try to, come home and have access to keep doing my work, and I still couldn't get all my work done. So it's cost me work loss, it's cost me major money, extra money to buy another product from my cell phone company. I mean, I was doing legal documents, I was doing a whole bunch of stuff, even with the Attorney General, and for some other stuff, and I literally couldn't even prepare my stuff in time for deadline dates. And so I would stay up all night long, literally keep working and go to work with no sleep, trying to get my work done, and it's caused major stress in my life. And I'm sure, look at this crowd here today, it's obviously saying something about Frontier, that their service is, they shouldn't even be in business, to be honest with you. I think pretty much gonna end up having the same kind of story in here, and I'm just glad everyone showed up to support. I actually left work to race here to get here for this meeting because I thought it was so important for all of us to stand together and stand up for the corruption and the stuff that goes on that we pay for, and we're not getting that service. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Diane Eaton, E-A-T-O-N, and I've talked to the Attorney General's office, the FCC, and Consumer Protection Agency. We had Frontier, and the service got so bad we switched to Midco. Then we sold our house, and we built in Elevate Estates, which is Kennedy Estates, Elevate Village, Kennedy Estates, right here off of 22. We were promised Midco would come through. They did not. We moved in December 6th. My husband has memory problems, could not remember how to use a cell phone. The only phone number he remembers is our old phone number. He cannot retain a new phone number. Okay, so my point is this. When technology came in, us old folks got left in the wind. People who don't know how to use cell phones can't retain that. People who are vulnerable adults can't retain that, need help. We had a fire alarm go off last night, and I looked at my husband, I said, well, I guess you should get in the truck and run down to the fire department, and maybe they'll come up here and put the ashes out, you know? It's fine when I'm there because I have a cell phone, but he's home alone. I talked to Frontier, they said they won't come in. Midco is one house away from me, and they won't come in. I said, run the cord over the ground, and they won't do it. This is a very dangerous situation for us. It's a dangerous situation for any elderly people that are building in an elderly community up there. People should not give up landlines. I read online in my research about how ARP is telling people senior citizens should not give up their landlines because if you have to make a 911 call, it takes too long for it to go through all the channels on a cell phone to get to the right person to get you help. If you're having a heart attack, they won't make it there on time. So I highly recommend we keep a landline. We asked the builder, where's our landline when we were building the house? He said, we don't need it, we'll have internet, so if you plug your phone into your internet. Guess what? We don't have internet. We put Usenet in for a little while. I paid $69.04 a month. Huh. And that was a joke. I finally quit them, and now I'm running off of a hotspot and something called smartphone. Is it smartphone? It's through Walmart. It's not gonna happen. Last night, 11 o'clock, our fire alarm went off. It was a good thing, we were both home, but it's like, what's going on? We've had a lot of electrical problems in that house since we moved in, and I really hate to see it. But it's scary, and we need to get somebody in there. Frontier says, oh, we can't do your internet, but we can put your phone in. Well, you know what, most, what are you gonna charge me to put in the wires, you know, because they aren't there. They aren't even on the road. They don't put them on the road anymore when you're building a new house, and it's a new housing project. So, this is the third house we built in our life, and the first time we've ever had to beg for basic utilities. This is not right. This is not right. I've talked to Lori Swanson's office, I've talked to Joy Gullickson, and I've talked to, the FCC. I've got letters all over going out on this, and I've talked to the builder, I've talked to the city council here, and we need to see something done. There's gonna be a lot more elderly people moving up there, because that's what it is, and it's an elderly community, basically. So,
Thank you, Ms.
we
Heath.
need a solution.
So, on the sign-in sheets, first person indicated that they might want to testify. That person, I'm not gonna mispronounce a lot of names, so please forgive me in advance. The next, Pugley. You don't want to testify? Okay. Dan, Babbitt?
Yep. My name's Dan Babbitt, B-A-B-B-I-T-T. I live here in Wyoming on Glen Oak Drive, and we have this is about internet. I have a lot of the similar issues about being really slow. I actually did the speed test a couple times, and online you can use where you talk to somebody through the chat, and I asked how fast it was supposed to be. She responded, and I said, well, I'm only getting X. I can't remember the numbers. And she said, well, that's okay, you're within 20% of what you're paying for. I said, well, wait a second here, you know, why can't I get everything that I'm paying for? Do I only have to pay 20% of my bill? And she said, well, that's just the way it is. I said, can I escalate it? And just to step back for a second, so when I was on that chat line, I think I was number 22 waiting in line, and I was watching some TV, so I just waited. Well, when I got escalated, I was 112 in line. I wasn't gonna wait for the 112 in line. And then, you know, the whole intermittent service, not that it's a big deal, but it kind of is a big deal. The other night, 10 days ago, doing my fantasy football draft at 7 o'clock, I was gone. So I got auto-drafted. And not that I win at all anyway, but at least I can blame myself when that goes. I share the same things about the lack of customer service and the lack of being able to get a hold of somebody and somebody being able to resolve it. And I live in a very residential neighborhood that's been there for a long time that has the high-speed lines in there. I do not understand how it can't be consistent and how somebody can actually say, well, you're getting 20% of what you're paying for, and that's good. So, thank you very much.
So, David Rosen and Mary Rosen share the same line. What are both of you like to speak?
Hi, my name's David R. Rosen, R-O-S-E-N. My big complaint is just like the rest of the people with the service, but the biggest complaint at this point is the pricing.
So you're also talking internet.
I'm talking internet service and telephone service. I've been with, I don't know how long we call this Frontier, but we've had the same telephone number for 47 years. Back in maybe 15, 20 years ago, here come internet. Here's a prime example of the pricing. We had a telephone bill that run like $29, and they offered a high-speed internet for $20 and something for the first year. And we went ahead and signed up, and we get our bill, and it's all of a sudden about $80 more. And I call internet, and I call Frontier to see what the deal is, and they say, well, you were grandfathered in on all these other deals, so now that you've changed it, you've changed the way things work. So I got totally ripped off. That's just the beginning of it. And now for the last 14 or 15 billing cycles, the phone bill for the telephone and the internet Every month it was climbing anywhere from $2 to $5 a month, and I would call and complain. Finally, I ended up lowering my telephone service, so it was a limited amount just to get the amount down under $100. So my biggest complaint is the differential on the billing every month. It should be the same amount every month regardless, not up $2 or $3 a month. Thank you.
David, you said?
My name's David Doucette, D-O-U-C-E-T-T-E, and I have the same problem as many of these people with internet service. So I live in Chisago, just north of Forest Lake. The only service we have available for internet is Frontier, and I've looked and looked every 6 months, 2 months for anything else. There's nothing else. To get the cable company to come would be $7,000 to bring cable down the road, so that's out of question. There's no wireless service available. Cell phone is available, but we live in kind of a dead spot, so that's iffy. So I can use hotspot. I pay more for hotspot just to have a backup, but the backup is not any better than Frontier. I have 2 DSL lines to have some redundancy to make up for Frontier, and that still doesn't work. So I spend, like some people do, spend days swapping between modems, and I work from home. I work in IT. I do troubleshooting a lot for IT, and when I call their technical support line, it's really frustrating because, like the other people have said, I know more about what's going on than they do, to be blunt, and I'm very patient with them, but then when they tell me that they're gonna charge $89 for someone to come out because they don't see a problem on their end, and I explain to them in technical detail why there's a problem on their end, it just doesn't get through to them. So, and there's long wait times for technical support. Sometimes it's been hours that I've sat on the phone waiting. As far as timeline, last summer, again, I have 2 lines. One of those lines went out, and I called for someone to come out, and the day that they were supposed to come out, they didn't show up. So, and due to the frustration of dealing with them, I didn't even call back. I had the other line, so I just lived with the other line until Super Bowl Sunday, February 4th, 2018, then the other line went out. And it came back, and then since that point in time, since February, the service has just been off and on, and you know, it'll be down for an hour, it could be down for 5 minutes, it'll be up and down, it's just every single day. During the summers, it's worse because the kids are home from school in the neighborhood, and it's a problem with capacity, so there's too many people using the service, and it causes it to go out for the people that are using the service. So I've had the technician out multiple times, and the story is that there's new equipment that's been installed, that's been put in the central office next to the old equipment, but it has not been turned on, and the people that can turn it on are in some faraway place, and they have other things to do. So there's nothing that he can do. And this is again after having service calls canceled and then calling them and having it reestablished that I need someone to come out, and then him telling me that he can't do anything. So it's just frustrating because there's no other service. He said that the people, you know, that in the health department do not know the details of what's going on the ground as far as equipment, and what equipment's there and what needs to be switched over and all that whole story. It seems like there's a breakdown in communication in the organization. What else? The rest of the story is that new equipment should provide more capacity. It's a different technology as well, but it's been, like I said, since February, and I haven't, it hasn't gotten any better, so obviously that new equipment hasn't been turned on. I think that's about it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. George, Michelson?
Michelson, actually, yes. M-I-C-K-E-L-S-E-N, S-E-N, that's the name. Bob told me always to tell people that. That separates us from the rest of those damn Scandinavians. No offense. Let me, I'm on board really with, what we've been hearing here. It seems to me that in the 15, 18, 20 years that internet has been offered via Frontier, I would think by this time they could probably try to get it right. It strikes me sometimes that it's a Me Too thing that, well, let's just offer internet. Well, who's going to be in charge of it? Well, who's going to do it? Well, what's going to happen when? Well, and there's really, it seems like there's a dark spot there that is just empty. I have two questions that I'll leave for the Frontier people. One is the internet service and who are your competitors in this area. I'm not sure there is any valid competitor. And of course, if they only made Chevrolets here in the United States, we'd all be driving Chevrolets. I think that's it's an important, it's not a good thing. We need to have competition, I think. The second one is with the phone. A number of years ago, I got a call from Frontier, I called Frontier, and they said, well, there's now a 2-year contract, and for that you get $5 off or $8 off, something like that. And I said, fine. And in looking at my phone bill, and I've asked you folks to do the same, I think it's on the front page or the second page, there's always a rolling 2-year contract. It seems like it goes into perpetuity. And I've had a couple of neighbors that have canceled Frontier phone, and they got to do battle on the telephone with Frontier that they owe it because they're canceling their contract. And one poor gal said, she said I owed $190, and I can't pay that this month, so she paid them $100. And I said, well, what are you paying them for? And she said, well, I guess I canceled my contract. I said, ask for your contract. Did you sign a contract? And she said, no, I don't think so. And we checked on her bill, and again, it's a kind of a rolling 2-year date on there. Any help would be appreciated.
Thank you. Terry Nash. 1 second, you'll get the microphone.
Terrymetz. I live in Scandia, and I have internet issues. I have an issue, I started calling them in October of 2012. Have had the continued problems, but I finally gave up, and they, because they couldn't increase my speed, I asked how much dial-up would be, and I said I don't have any faster speed than dial-up would be, so you could charge me for dial-up. So they gave me that for a year, then I was supposed to call back and argue again. Otherwise, all the same issues. What I have that I'd like to give to you is I have run a variety of speed tests, and the fastest speed I have ever achieved, and I have it documented, is 0.96. My slowest is 0.05. So I'd like to give that to you. Oh, I guess if I could add to that, for me, using my phone as a hotspot is also not an option because I live too close to the river and there's no service, apparently. And when I've complained about this, there is, it's a monopoly. one of the things that I am frustrated about is there is supposed to be some kind of an initiative to serve rural people with broadband or, you know, faster internet speed, but we've been told we're not rural enough.
Thank you. So what we'll do, Ms. Francis, will mark that as exhibit 11.
Can we all run a speed test and send it in?
They'll get the same thing.
The commission will continue to accept comments in this proceeding through October 3rd at 4:30 p.m. So you can send them referencing this proceeding, whatever information you'd like them to have and to consider up until October 3rd at 4:30 p.m.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, can you repeat where we can send those comments? Because I'm gonna go.
Could you ask Mr. McCarthy to do that?
There is a small slip also on the table where you're registered. There are little quarter sheets to follow up information. Judge, I had Your Honor, a response that you're using the microphone.
I always think that people are what?
Okay, I'll use it.
Ron Carlson?
Carlson, C-A-R-L-S-O-N. We moved into the county, Chisago County, in 2006. Though I'm fourth generation Carlson, my ancestors grew up in a farm, also in Lindstrom. But in 2006, we struggled with internet. Had we known internet was going to be so bad, we would not have moved to the country from ring suburb of Minneapolis. Weekends, I usually not have email, and this slow speed on-off again service continued until 2016. So 10 years later, we hear at a broadband meeting in the spring of 2016 that Frontier is planning upgrades for the county. They said they hope to start those upgrades that summer. Well, 2016 went by. 2017, they actually got new COs, new central offices installed, shortening the distance between homes and the hub that you're connecting to the fiber. We were 2.5 miles in 2006, but in November, I was still experiencing slow performance. So I had a technician come out and he said the CO I'm connected to on Quail Ridge Drive, which is 1.25 miles, a mile and a quarter from our house, is full. Because I was getting questionable up and download speeds. He did suggest getting a booster. I did get an ASUS booster, a couple $100 to improve my reception with what I was getting from the copper coming from the street. But he said, I said, what about, I thought we had 20 megabytes available. I was getting 5 something at the router. The ASUS router continued that, brought that speed to other areas of the house. But he said, unfortunately, even though it's only been turned up for a few months, that CO with new Calyx E7 equipment is full. There are no more slots for expanding.
at that CO, so there's nothing he could do. But he said on Quail Ridge Drive, no, I'm sorry, Quarry Road, which is less than a mile, it's actually closer to our house, it's about 3/4 of a mile. He said there's open slots there. I said, how do I switch COs? And he said, call service and open a ticket. So November, I called I called Michelle at Lindstrom. She said, no, call the 1-800 number. Call the 1-800 number. They said, let's see. I talked to him after 45 minutes, and the person was arguing apparently with customer service about the rights to how to do an engineering order to get me moved from one CO to another CO that has openings. She said, I'll get back to you after 45 minutes, but we should have something within a couple of weeks. February, that was in November of 2017. No, 2016, I'm sorry. February of 2017, I called and, no, 2018, I'm sorry. So this last February I called again saying, hey, I opened a ticket back in November. I'm calling 3 months later. I was going to get moved to a different CO that's closer to my house that has open slots available so I can pay for higher broadband. And they couldn't find the ticket based on my account number. 45 minutes later, Amanda said, I'll get back, we'll have an answer for you by next week. The next week I called and talked to Brad Nelson. He couldn't find a ticket number either, but he said, don't call again on this issue. He'll call me back within a week. And now I haven't heard anything since November. He said, I'll contact you. So the issue is I wanted to pay for broadband. There was a solution. I had to work with the 1-800 number to schedule it, but I was unsuccessful. So I basically threw up my hands and not happy. And I agree with the gentleman who talked about competition. I've mentioned this to Frontier staff for a number of years that's part of the problem as I see it is the regulatory, the fact that they're on landlines and from the old telecom days, and CenturyLink does not compete with Frontier and so forth. So if we could get company A to compete with company B, then we would not be an only Chevrolet type of customer. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Alicia and Jeremy Hudak.
Alicia Hudek, ALICIAHUDEK. I'm a terrible public speaker, sorry.
Oh, you're doing great.
So, my husband and I built a house in East Bethel about 2 years ago. And Frontier, of course, is the only internet service that was provided to us. To start off, they, for 2 months, argued that our house even existed. So, we had to put up with calling customer service, being on hold for hours on end, trying to get somebody to come out to, I guess we had to prove that we lived there, or that the house existed. Finally, they said, oh yeah, you do live here, okay. So it took another few weeks for a service truck to come out and set it up, and then ever since then it's been terrible service. We hardly ever use Frontier. We both use our phones mostly because anytime we try to use it, it goes out on us. Or
you're talking about your internet?
Internet, I'm sorry, yes. And we recently had an incident where our internet service went out, and we both thought, okay, you know, it's another incident. So we let it go for a few days. Well, when it didn't come back on, I was on hold for 45 minutes, finally got a hold of somebody, and then they said it would be about a week and a half to 2 weeks before anybody could get out there. So we waited. It was about 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks before we even got our internet service back. Well, then we got our bill, and we were paying for that whole time that we did not have internet. So then I, again, attempted to call customer service, was on hold multiple times, talked to multiple different people. They all said that they couldn't refund us because I did not call exactly when the internet service went out. I was actually called irresponsible because I did not call. When asked to speak to managers or supervisors after I was told I was irresponsible, they said that I was not able to talk with them. They would put me on hold finally when I said I really would like to speak with somebody higher up than you. They would put me on hold, I'd be on hold for 20 to 30 minutes, and then they'd hang up. So then I'd have to call back again. So finally I gave up and just wrote the Better Business Bureau, and we're here now. But I guess what I would just like to say is I feel like it's extremely unfair that you take advantage of people when they don't have access to anything else as far as internet goes, and then treat them so poorly when you call them. So, I think that is one of the biggest reasons why we wanted to come and speak about Frontier. And I guess, you know what, you don't do it well, so why do you keep doing it? So, thank you. Oh, and I'm sorry, my husband would like to speak if that's okay. Oh, I'm sorry, okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, did Mr. Hudak want to comment?
No, she got it covered.
Mike, there's a gentleman behind you.
Judge, I'm State Senator Mark Coran. I think it'd be helpful for anybody who's providing testimony when they're talking and have done the speed tests. I think it'd be helpful for you as you gather your information that to provide the details of the upload and download speed. So far, people have just described a speed, but without delineating upload or download, it will be, in many cases, it'll be limited. So, thank you.
The next person who's indicated speaking is Mr. Fred Ressler. Mike, he's up at the front here.
Thank you. My name is Fred Ressler, R-E-S-L-E-R. I had the pleasure of being a Frontier customer for 25 years. I even got a nice letter from them congratulating me.
So Mr. Ressler, I'm going to ask you to address me, if you could.
I can. Yeah. I'm a double Frontier customer. I have Frontier in Florida and I have Frontier in Minnesota. I'll just try and address the Minnesota problem first. I just recently moved to Vadnais Heights. We sold our lake place up in Finlayson, Minnesota. And we canceled our Frontier service and told them, hey, we're done, we're moving, we're finished. However, the problem is I keep getting bills from Frontier. They acknowledge they canceled it. And
Mr. Ressler, did you tell me when you moved to Vadnais Heights?
June 19th. I've got a copy for all you, all of this. One of the problems is, yes, they want to give me credit, they did. Gee, you said we've got credit on the account of $53 in there, and we'll send you a Visa card for it, prepaid Visa card. Well, that didn't happen. So anyway, they got the charges pretty well wiped out after several hours on the phone. However, the problem is I'm still getting bills from them. They're charging me all the government access taxes and the Minnesota state sales tax on a zero balance. Their billing specialist said, well, you have to talk to your local government about that. The people they hire know nothing, and most of their trouble comes from 2 years ago when they bought all the Verizon lines in Texas and Florida and California, and damn near killed all the business people in Florida.
Mr. Ressler has given me what we'll mark as Exhibit 12.
It covers most of the Minnesota problems, and you can see on there where it's zero balance, and they're just charging me taxes, decreasing my credit balance till they get it all. I won't go into the Florida thing, but they owe me $117, and now my bill's coming from Florida where I tried to turn the phone off on vacation mode. Well, they did that. They charged me the regular rate plus added in the vacation mode charge. Most of their problem stems from the top, but I'll try and talk to the Frontier people in the back about my Florida problem. That's not your problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ressler. Krista Schauer.
Hi, my name is Krista Schauer, C-H-R-I-S-T-A, S-C-H-A-U-E-R. We've had Frontier for probably about 11 years. We moved into Linwood 2007. We did end up getting their internet service a few years back. Honestly, all of these stories that I'm hearing are completely the same exact of what everybody is you're gonna hear it over and over again. Nothing is gonna be different from story to story to story. We've had the automatic disconnects. They've went and had us go and do speed tests. The only time the speed tests actually truly work is when you do the hard line into your wall. That's the only time you're gonna get good service. Who does that? Computers don't even have that ability to have the cord hook up to your computer anymore. I work from home 3 days a week. I'm having to use my company's cell phone hotspot 95% of the time because the internet just shuts off, turns back on, shuts off. I can't keep up with work. I've been calling, it's useless, it's a waste of money. People, these guys are just banking on the fact that you're gonna get so frustrated with them that you're gonna give up, and you guys have all said it. I've called them, I've talked to them, I've heard the same thing, that the fiber optics are going in. I heard that 2 or 3 years ago. The only time that they will end up upgrading your service is if you have a competitor that you're able to drop them and go to. Other than that, you're just gonna have to deal with it and suck it up. I live on a road and there's a mile stretch where I'm not able to get anything but Frontier, but on each end of me can get Mid-Continent. That's not even a mile. It's ridiculous. My husband, when he's home and he has to do his paperwork, he doesn't even waste his time with Frontier. He just automatically does his company hotspot that they've given him. I think honestly, Frontier needs to go and reimburse every single person here for the last 10 years for everything that we've had to pay out.
Thank you, Ms. Schauer. Question, ma'am?
I'm on the list, and I need to go there, because not that I have to go anywhere, but I'm getting more increasingly emotional.
Sure, you can go there.
And the more I hear, I won't be able to, I don't know if I can really speak now, but okay.
Yep.
I used to live
I'm gonna interrupt you and ask.
Pam Stone, S-T-O-N-E. I live in Willow River, Minnesota. I lived in Arden Hills before moving to Willow River 4 years ago. Never had a problem. I didn't have Frontier. Never had a problem with my internet service. So again, we have just Frontier. So last year, I got so frustrated, because first of all, I had back surgery too, and I've had issues, and so my modem is down in the basement. So then I have to go down the stairs, which is hard. I have a torn meniscus to turn the switch on the modem and do that when I don't have internet. So that's hard. Then, the service is crap. And first of all, I'm a grandparent, so it's just my husband and I. We don't have kids in the home, so we don't have multiple people in our home competing for the internet. So at night, we just try to watch a Netflix movie, and basically it can take you 5 hours to watch a movie. It buffers, and we also pay for Dish, so then we end up watching Dish for a while and go back, and then when we try to watch something on Amazon Prime, we get insufficient bandwidth. So finally, about a year of totally frustrated and just living with it, I was on Facebook, and a friend was complaining about Frontier and how bad it was, and she has one of those fancy sewing machines where she's trying to do a business, and so the internet will shut off when it's started to stitch. Well, then it starts over. Well, now you have ruined fabric, because it doesn't restart, so it's already made part of the pattern, and so she's lost sales, and she is out material, and so I made the mistake of calling Frontier after a year of being upset. Well, based on their customer service, which is crap, and they put you up, oh no, you gotta talk to tech. No, tech, you gotta talk to customer service. No, you gotta talk to this person. I have documented, I had a 5-hour chat with them. 5 hours. The only sanity was I was playing Free-Cell. So then when I complained, I got so mad, I said, if you can't do anything, just cancel me. So then I hung up on them. I mean, I was so frustrated. This was last year. So then I called back and said, no, I don't want to be canceled because there's no other internet. It was just pure frustration. So they said, no, we won't cancel you. You would have to get a call. So they guaranteed me I wouldn't get canceled. I got canceled. So then I was without service. I guess the only saving grace is that by being canceled and having to get back on, I got a promotional rate for a year. So I did have a $15 lower bill. But then I called again when I saw this friend's thing after only 9 months of service, and I called and I complained, because it's like, yeah, last night too we couldn't watch the movie, we were watching Dish, so I called. So my husband and I are both trying to watch a movie. We're not on the internet. There's not multiple people using anything. We're just trying to watch one movie together. So I called. So the guy guaranteed me that he could up my speed. I was like at a 1.74, up my speed to a 6. So it's like, we'll switch you to broadband max because you're only on light. But your rate won't go up. My rate went up, losing my promotional. So calling them, they did give me then since I was at $15 more per month, they did give me a $45 credit. But in the meantime, I've had 2 people come out and service and look, and neither one of them can do anything. And then one guy said, well, the service sold you something they should have never sold you, because your equipment in Willow River can only handle 3. So they upped you to 6, and you started paying $15 more when your equipment can't even handle it. So they said, yeah, so that happened. So then in one of our storms, the line went out, so we didn't have service for several days. no service at all, not even intermittent, because I'm also agree with that intermittent and bad service and having to go down and flip the switch and do that. But you can't get a credit for that because it comes back, when you flip the switch off and flip it back on, you got service. So they won't give you a credit because, I mean, you didn't have service, you had to walk downstairs, you had to play all these little games, but you got it, so tough out. So the power line in a storm went out. So we have a temporary line over the river. So now our service is even more crap. When I did a speed test one time, I had 0.27. Okay, so, but I didn't call. If you don't call, then you don't get a credit. You know, but who has 5 hours of sanity really, for how much you're paying? I mean, I'm going to be on the phone for 5 hours on chat. I asked, when is the line? I said, I want a $15 credit every month until such time as you fix the temporary line, which makes my service even worse, to a permanent line. So not even just a $15 credit till that happens, or a $15 credit until you up our service to more than 3 Mbps. So anyway, when I was cut off and they put me back on last year, they said I had 3 before. They guaranteed me that I would still be on 3. Well, then after 9 months of problems, when I called in, I found out I was only at 1.74. So for 9 months, I was on 1.74. Then they guaranteed me and sold me the product for 6. But then when people came out, it's really only 3. But one technician, I guess he did something, I was told that was illegal. He actually switched. I mean, I'm glad he did it, but it was only temporary because another guy redid it. He actually switched, because in my area it's only 3. He did a manual override so that my service went to a different area where it was 6, so I could get 6. But then when the new guy came out, he switched it, and I said, well, wait a minute. I wasn't, because for like 2 months when I had complained in July, I had up to 6. When I did a speed test, I actually had 6 one time, or 5.8. And now that he's been out, I'm back down to like 2 something for my speed test. I actually filed a Better Business thing, and I filed something with the Attorney General, so I have a letter from the Attorney General, but more important, I have a letter from Frontier, their response to the Attorney General, which states that I could call, or a representative would get a hold of me, and I could go back to since they oversold me a product, I could go back to the lesser speed of 3 and save money. So I, just this morning, before coming here, I did a chat, because then I can save it and print it out. And on the chat, I said, okay, if I want to lower my speed, since I really can't get 6, what would I be paying? And it's actually more money, $10 more money, $15 more money than I'm paying now for the 6 that I don't even get. So I could lower back from max to light and have the privilege of lowering my quality of service and pay $15 more. But in their response to the Attorney General, they said I could because all this time, this would end up being $25 more than I was paying before I called in July when I reported that I had a problem. So I've gotten, at least 20 hours of phone conversations and chat to pay more money to actually have crappier service than what I had. And so I'm frustrated beyond belief. I asked the question, how much does a Frontier people who pay, because I was told that some people can get 45 Mbps. And I said, well, I guess I can only get 3. And most of the time it's less than 3. So how much do they pay a month? And then how about if I pay the prorated amount, since I'm only getting 1.74 to 3. but they said, we can't tell you that information. So, their customer service, they contradict themselves, they give different information.
And,
I'm frustrated, I'm done.
oh, I don't mean to cut you off, but I do have to give the court reporter a break, and I need to give, the parties that I introduced a chance to respond. So, that's what I'm gonna do now.
And I'm gonna submit some paperwork.
That would be great.
But I'm also, can I submit some more paperwork later too, in addition?
Yeah, you can submit it, to the Public Utilities Commission.
Okay.
Up until October 3rd at 4:30 p.m.
So is it better to submit part of what I have now and then the rest later, or should I just keep it wait?
You know, it may make sense for it all to be together.
Okay.
I can't make that determination, but
Okay.
I'm happy to take what you have now.
Okay.
And then you can file the whole thing together,
Okay.
with the commission.
But I also have a letter from a neighbor, they wanted to, they couldn't be here,
We
they
would
want.
mark that as a
Okay,
separate exhibit.
okay, that's their complaint, or,
We'll mark this as exhibit. So, I'll give you a chance to start up again after the break, but
thank you.
I've got, okay, so, Mr. McCarthy, do you have any response that you'd like to share with the audience, the comments thus far?
Thank you, Your Honor. I did want to just mention that, as the evening goes on, if you are someone who will have trouble downloading the record of this proceeding from the Public Utilities Commission, there is a form with a blue slip on the back table outside, where if you need if you would like to get a hard copy of Judge Oxley's written report at the conclusion of the series of hearings, we would be able to take care of that. I failed to mention that earlier, I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
That's all for the moment. Thank you.
Mr. Seville from Frontier?
Thank you, Your Honor. I've been sitting in the back of the room listening, and I guess, to begin with, on behalf of Frontier, I apologize for the service issues that many of you have experienced, particularly if you called into our call center, talked to one of our service reps or a technician in the field, if they haven't treated you appropriately, haven't responded to your issues. There's nothing I can do about that as I stand here tonight, but I do want to apologize on behalf of the company. I know most of the comments we've heard tonight have been about internet service speeds, and so I do, want to take a minute and try to touch on that and address some of the issues that many of you have raised. As I mentioned at the beginning this evening, I started with Frontier in 2001, so about 17 years ago. And it was about at that time that Frontier was really just starting to roll out internet service in Minnesota. And as a company, we were largely at the forefront of deploying DSL internet service around the state. We got to the point that we were able to deliver internet service, albeit only a 1 megabit service, to over 90% of the households across our Minnesota footprint, which, as I mentioned earlier, is quite diverse. That technology that we deployed is called Digital Subscriber Line, or DSL. And it depends and relies upon the telephone line that is in your home that had historically been used for just basic telephone service. It's a twisted pair of copper wires. Now, that service that we deployed, did a very good job for a 1 megabit or a 3 megabit service if you were just looking at emails or maybe browsing a website. The problem that many of you are experiencing is as the internet usage is expanding, the types of applications people are attempting to do, streaming, other gaming and other things using their internet, that's putting exponential growth and demands on facilities that were originally deployed to provide phone service. And as a company, we've been working to augment our facilities, and I know some of you have spoken or mentioned the fact that you've been told that Frontier is in the midst of upgrading its network,
And while individually, some of you may not have seen that, we've been doing that across the state in literally dozens, if not hundreds of communities. And I know there have been some questions about competition, who are our competitors. This isn't gonna, necessarily make any of you feel any better, but I think it's important to recognize that, there's nothing that is prohibiting any type of competitor, whether it's a cable TV, whether it's CenturyLink, whether it's any other company, from coming in and providing an alternative service if they elect to do so. The difficulty is, like it or not, in some parts of the state, competitors have chosen to only concentrate on the most populated, densely served areas that are the least expensive, easiest to serve, and easiest to provide a faster service. Frontier, as a phone company, we have our lines there, and as I said, we're working to augment our facilities so we can increase the speed. We have taken advantage of and participated in programs that were initiated by the Federal Communications Commission and by the state of Minnesota to get funding to help us augment our network and provide faster speeds of broadband service in many of the rural communities that we serve. And in fact, under what is called the Connect America Fund, administered by the Federal Communications Commission, we have participated in that program for the last 3 years. That program continues through the year 2020. And under that program, throughout the state of Minnesota, we'll be expanding broadband speeds and service to a 10 megabit speed download to approximately 47 different households or locations across the state. Now, the other, 47,000 across the state. Apologize. Now, the issue is that the FCC decides where those locations are. They determine which locations qualify to participate in that funding. And I can't get into details here tonight in terms of, your house is gonna be in the area where CAF is gonna be available and you're not. But I can tell you that in general, in Chisago County, there's about 2,500 locations that are eligible for CAF funding. We are in the process of completing that build out. We have until calendar year, the end of calendar year 2020 to complete that build out. As of the end of 2017, we were about 40% through that build out, but we realize we still have work to do. Even after we complete that work at the end of calendar year 2020, it may not impact all of you, but there is some portion of you that should see a benefit in terms of your speeds and your service. And what I would encourage you to do tonight is stop by the table in the back, provide your information in terms of your address, and we will go back and we have to do some research on a particular address and whether it is anticipated to be in the area that this CAF build out is going to be taking place over the next 2 years. And our representatives, either Cindy or Robin back there, will follow up with you in the next few days and give you some information about whether or not your area is likely to receive CAF funding. In addition to that, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you are having another service issue, whether it's a billing issue, whether it's an issue any type of issue related to your telephone service or your internet service, please stop by and give your information to Robin and Cindy. Again, they will investigate it, they will follow up with you. You have the company's commitment that you will hear from us over the next few days in terms of your individual issue. So again, there are a number of Frontier service reps here this evening. I encourage you to either give your information to Cindy and Robin or just talk to one of us and we'll do our best to try to answer your questions. So thank you.
I told you at the beginning how I was gonna organize things, and I'm afraid I'm just gonna depart from it. A woman has to leave, and I told her she could have an opportunity to speak. I need to give the court reporter a break then, and I'll let Mr. Dobson and Mr. Doyle open the second session with responses to the first. I'm sorry for this deviation, but my job is to get public testimony.
Thank you, I appreciate that. My name is Julia McMahon, McMann, and I'm here to talk about the Croisette Property Owners Association Internet Access and Service. So I'm here speaking on behalf of all of the members, and there are over 20 in our association. We live off of 95 on the riverside, just south of Marine on St. Croix. Frontier is the only service provider in the area. We have the same service, intermittent service and down service customer complaints as everyone else who has already spoken. But on behalf of the Cryside Property Owners Association, I do want to list a couple of the responses that the association listed. Some of them are more specific than others. Some of the responses that we have heard from customer service when we have called is that a new switch is being installed. It should be up relatively soon. If you haven't already, we've been advised to switch to a different router. There's even some specifics about it. Firmware on the routers that are being currently provided by Frontier have not been updated in 6 years. Another complaint is that, and that the feedback that we are hearing from Frontier when other members of the association have called is, or the answers that are given, I should say, is that new switches are needed, new equipment is needed, improved service will happen, and these complaints, as well as these same responses, have been occurring over the past 10 years. One member of the association has said that their upload speed is so poor that it is technically illegal under federal standards. When that person attempted to get this resolved, the customer service rep stated that they are legally required to supply service, period, but when told her that their service was less than 1/3 of the speed legally required, she questioned the claim, and then she came back and confirmed that they were right, that the speed that they're getting is 1/3 of the speed that is federally required, and as a thanks, or I should say as an apology, she offered a $5 credit.
Wow. Did you really get it?
That person asked me to give you hell. One other neighbor has a device hooked up to their internet, and that device will record how often internet is disabled and comes back online every 24 hours. Most recently, in the past week, that device saw 75 occurrences of being online and then offline in one 24-hour period. This is a billing issue for a business that is also located in this area. The St. Croix Watershed Research Station with the Science Museum of Minnesota in May Township has 3 accounts with Frontier, one for system phone service, the main campus, one for a seasonal use cabin, and one for a Metro Ethernet line to provide internet. Because of issues with Frontier being unable to correctly apply payments to the correct account, we have for at least the past 5 years issued 3 separate checks, one for each account. Even with this precaution, over the past 3 years, Frontier has randomly applied payments to the wrong accounts, resulting in overpayments and credits to one account and late fees and charges on the other accounts. To their records then look past due. When this has occurred, it would take months to resolve it. We had to deal with it on many levels of accounting, representatives, and finally account supervisors. When the last of these issues were resolved, our staff had spent many full days of work trying to decipher the credits and payments applied. The explanations they would receive from Frontier would be so involved and hard to understand that they finally had to estimate the totals, and they still received late charges on the wrong accounts. They go on in this fashion. I don't think I have to read all of them, but those are probably the widest scope of the complaints. And most, I should say, probably half of the residents in our neighborhood either attempt to work from home, some even moved to the neighborhood with the intentions of working from home. And because the internet service is so poor, they've had to go outside and get a permanent office elsewhere. So, and I'm one of those people. I work from home on occasion, and it is incredibly disruptive. Not only is it disruptive to have your internet go down repeatedly, but again, the same customer service complaints that these folks have said, it's circular and it never ends. So thank you for holding this session so that we can raise our voices.
You're welcome. So we will take a 15-minute break and